Hi, welcome to Pyrography Made Easy. I'm Brenda. In this tutorial episode, I am going to explain how to create an icicle. Now, I do want to mention that Todd said my icicle did not remind him of an icicle. He decided that it was because there was only one. Well, after you know how to make one, you can easily make several. And one more thing, on my website, Pyrography Made Easy, I do have a written version of this tutorial, and I have a free pattern and the reference photo available. I will put a link to that in the video description. Well, let's get started. Transfer the pattern to the board. Before you remove the pattern, check for any missing lines. After the pattern is transferred to the board, then use a writer pen tip and lightly burn over the pencil lines. Then rub over the area with a pencil eraser to remove any residual graphite. Use the shader of your choice and burn circular motion on the background. Rotate the board as needed so that your pen tip is in optimal position when burning next to the icicle. Optimal position means that the front edge of the pen tip is on the edge of the icicle and the body of the pen tip is angled over the background. Burning in this position will help keep the edges of the icicle crisp and clean. I am using Colwood's E shader. I picked this particular pen tip because the point allows me to work with precision next to the icicle. The large body shape of the pen tip allows me to fill in the background quicker. If you examine the reference photo, you can see that the icicle is hanging from a slanted roof. I decided to ignore that. Also, in the distance are some out-of-focus evergreen trees. I decided to make things super simple and create an irregular, blotchy background using circular motion versus trying to replicate the photo. It is up to you if you want to mimic what I am doing or replicate the photo. As I said before, make sure to rotate the board as needed so that your pen tip is in optimal position. We need the icicle to have really clean, crisp edges. As I work my way around the icicle, I am creating a wide band of non-uniform color. The color reminds me of numerous small roundish shapes that are grouped together. The roundish shapes vary in color and are the result of the circular motion burn stroke. Circular motion is nothing more than a continuous chain of loops or circles. Some chains of circles are long, others are very short. Sometimes I let the chain meander around the board. Other times I keep it confined to a small area. I do this to ensure the texture and tonal value on the background has variety. Another thing I do to help increase the texture and tonal variety is to create different sizes of circular motion. This is done by altering the angle I am holding the pen tip. The steeper the angle, the smaller the circular motion. The angle also impacts the color of the burn results. When I use the flat of the shader, all of the nib is in contact with the board. With that much metal touching the board, the nib can't stay as hot as it could if I was only using the tip. This results in a lighter colored burn result. And the opposite is true. If I have the pen tip steeply angled so I'm only using the tip, the nib can get hotter and the resulting burns are darker. Of course, there is also the reburning that gets done. Sometimes the reburning is done to fill in areas, and other times it is done to darken up areas. For example, I often burn a meandering chain of circular motion using the tip of the shader. This produces a smaller and darker burn result. Then I decrease the angle of the pen tip and fill in the area adjacent to that dark burn with lighter color. I also do the opposite. I fill an area in using the flat of the shader. This produces larger and lighter colored burn results. Then I reburn in limited areas using the tip of the shader to create darker color. Afterwards, I may reburn over the area to blend the transition a bit between the two. Please keep in mind that I am just explaining what I have done on my artwork. That doesn't mean you have to do the same thing. You may prefer to mimic the photo, or you might prefer to create a uniform dark colored background. It's your artwork. Customize it to your personal preferences. Here is how my artwork looks after I finish the background. Here's a close-up of the icicle. It doesn't have a lot of tonal variety. We're going to use a total of 4 colors. Color 1 is white. White is unburned wood. 2, a tan color. The tan color needs to be 2 to 3 shades darker than white. 3, dark. This needs to be a dark brown color. 4, a medium color. This will be 3 to 4 shades lighter in value than the dark brown color. Ignore what I burned on the icicle. Begin by removing any overburn by gently scraping it away by using the edge of a sharp knife or similar object. Equip a writer pen tip and adjust the heat on your burner to get the medium color. Test your results on scrap material. Once you have achieved the correct color, then start burning circular motion on the darker areas of the icicle. I am using Colwood's C writer pen tip, but any writer pen tip will work for this. I am using an open circular motion burn stroke as I fill in the darker areas on the icicle. This means you can see little gaps in the loops on the circular motion. We want tonal variety in the darker areas, so leave small spots unburned or very light in color. Don't burn the area to a uniform or solid color. In addition to the circular motion burn stroke, I am also using a scribbling zigzag type of burn stroke. This means I am burning lines in an up-down direction. The direction of the lines often changes, which is why I describe it as scribbling. When you start burning on the narrow, darker areas, make sure to reduce the size of your burn stroke. On the really narrow spots, I use the zigzag-ish burn stroke more than I use circular motion. While it is okay to go past the lines on the darker areas, you don't want to accidentally create one large darker area. Something I want to point out, and you may have noticed, that I have been adding little darker areas that are not on the pattern. You can do the same or just stick with the pattern lines. Continue to work your way down the length of the icicle. My pattern for the icicle has 3 vertical rows of darker area running down the length of the icicle. If you look at the reference photo, it's a bit more complex than that. I decided that I wanted the outer edges of my icicle to remain white in color, or unburned. The reason is that this would ensure the icicle stands out from the background. Adjust your burner to get a dark brown color. Test on scrap material before you start burning on your icicle. Once the desired color has been achieved, reburn over the darker areas using the same techniques and burn strokes that we used with the medium color. I am applying the dark color sparingly. I do not want to cover up all of the medium color, and I don't want to lose some of those really pale colors that are in there. Reduce the heat on your burner until your pen tip is producing a tan color. Make sure to test it on scrap material. Then add some tan-colored burn strokes here and there to break up the white color. Remember, white is just unburned wood. I am primarily using the scribbling zigzag-ish burn stroke for this. Most of the places I am adding color to are adjacent to the darker areas on the icicle. I also add the tan color to larger spots of unburned wood. This color is not very dark, but it does help give texture and realism to the white areas on the icicle. It is very important that you do not completely burn over the white areas. The white areas are essential for conveying icy coldness in the icicle. If you look closely at the tan color I'm burning, you can see that my burn strokes are very open. What I mean by that is that the unburned wood shows through in numerous places. As I work my way down the icicle, there are fewer and fewer places where I am adding the tan color. When I do add the tan color, I'm burning very short burn strokes, maybe a short line or two or even a couple of blotchy dots. We're almost done. Adjust your burner to get the dark brown color. I didn't wait for my pen tip to heat up all the way, which is why the color is not very dark right now. Finish adding the dark brown color to the darker areas on the icicle. I am not adding a lot of the dark brown color to the icicle. I'm applying the color in a very similar fashion as the tan color was applied. My burn strokes tend to be on the shorter side, plus the burn strokes are open, so the underlying burn marks show through in numerous places. As I work my way down the icicle, I use even less and less of the dark color. To me, the dark brown color is an accent to be used sparingly. That said, you may or may not agree, and that is okay. After all, I am just explaining how I created my artwork, but that does not mean it is the only way to do things, or even the best way. As I burn, I am consciously making an effort to keep my burn strokes random, especially on the larger, darker areas on the icicle. When I look at the reference photo, I see very few spots of uniform color, and the spots that I do see are not very big. Here is how my icicle currently looks. I don't like how the tip or lower edge of it turned out. To fix this, I'm using the edge of a sharp knife to gently remove the burn marks. While I have the knife in my hand, I'm adding a few thin highlights here and there on the icicle. Again, I am using a very gentle pressure as I scrape away some burn marks. Here is how the icicle looked before and after I scraped in some highlights. It's not a huge difference. The very last thing I did was use a white colored pencil and add a couple of ultra bright white highlights here and there. I drew the highlights on either the white or tan colored areas on the icicle. This step is optional. You can try it, and if you don't like it, you can erase it. Just do it soon. The longer the colored pencil stays in contact with the wood, the harder it is to remove it. I thought my highlights were a touch too bright, so I'm using a kneadable eraser and lightly rubbing over them just to remove a little color. I will put a link to a kneadable eraser in the video description. Here is how my icicle turned out. A quick reminder, you can easily add more icicles. Just add them before you burn in the background. Well, that is it for this tutorial episode. I hope you found the information informative. As I said before, on my website, Pyrography Made Easy, I do have the written version of this tutorial, and it has a free pattern you can use. I will put a link to that in the video description. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon.